Okay, well, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Heromakers Podcast. And here we are in February having crazy weather. And I continue to run. I did my I told you guys last week, or was it last week? That I told you guys that I started my marathon training. And so last week I was still stuck on the treadmill inside because it was 0 out over the weekend. And so I did my 6 miles on the treadmill, which wasn't fun with my mask. Actually, I let it slip, which is bad. I'm like confessing. It's like the confessional right now.
Laurie.
This weekend, it's supposed to be like a super balmy 12 tomorrow. So I'm going out. I'm going out.
Go, Laurie. Cheering for you.
But and you were saying before we started recording that it is balmy up in Toronto.
Oh yeah,
right?
It's just below freezing, so it's -1, -2 Celsius.
Celsius, which I still don't understand because again, I'm in the U.S. and I don't understand the metric system. But that's warmer. So you're telling me that's warmer, which is
it's awesome.
Yeah. So, anyways, and I have to say, Ann, like the sun is shining today, and
Yeah.
so I heard birds. So we're getting there. We're getting to spring. It's happening. But guys, I'm excited about today. There's hope. There's always hope, even in the darkest times. And I'm so excited to see the green grass that's going to be so green on the other end of this 2 feet of snow we have on the ground. So, you guys, I'm very excited about today's podcast because we're talking to another runner friend. And it's been a while. So I figure it's time to have a runner friend on here. And Mark White, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Nice to meet
Mark.
you.
And Mark is coming to us from the UK. And Mark, I am just really excited to talk to you because you've started this fun, amazing thing called Run Grateful, where you are encouraging people to run a mile, to run 24 hours, a mile every hour, whatever. We're going to talk about different options, but really to use the time of movement to be grateful, right, for things in our world. And as an Enneagram 7, like I am grateful for everything in the world, I think. And so I'm excited for people to kind of grab hold of that because I think we're better off too, right, when we're grateful. So so we're excited to have you on the podcast, and you are in the UK, so you are our first global participant on the podcast. So congratulations on that.
Wow. Thank you.
No pressure, Mark. No pressure.
Yeah,
Mark.
No, not at all, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Run Grateful. We're going to talk about this other thing called Your Town, which you started, which is kind of building community, which is great. And so, Mark, can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you grew up and just your interest in fitness and community and it's kind of how those passions came together?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, thanks for having me. And being described as a runner as well. Wow, like what is one of those?
Who knows? Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? How you always compare yourselves, and it's like, well, I'm not one of them because I can't, go that far or that fast, or I'm not, etc. But yeah, listen, I love to run, and so I'm not going to play around with words. So yeah, I am a runner. I'm a grateful runner, as you're about to find out. But a little bit about me is 37, and happy with kind of where I am and what I've got. Glass half full mentality is largely how I like to live my life, and wasn't always the case. I don't mind being honest and open with this conversation, but there was a time when I was, glass half empty. So the complete opposite for lots of different reasons. But I'm really pleased to say that these days, I'm really happy with what I'm doing and what I'm contributing to the world. And I'm curious and excited about what the future has in store for me, and that was all built on my background, really. So I've been around for a little while now. I'm a father of 2. I've got 2 daughters, one soon to be 14 in a few weeks, and another daughter of 15. 16 this year, so knee deep in teenage years. Been married for 15 odd years as well, and to Michelle, little town called Hoddesdon, which is just north of London in Hertfordshire, southeast of the UK. Never strayed too far away from my hometown. bit of a running joke locally here because of some of the work that I do. Where I live, that I'll get a nosebleed if I leave, if I stray too far, away from home. But yeah, home is where the heart is, as they say. I'm very passionate about where I live. I'm really, passionate about taking part and contributing to my local community, which, we go into with maybe the Your Town story. But yeah, that's the ABCs of me. I've been running for 10 years. I started to run in 2010 as a way of giving up cigarettes, Marlboro Lights in particular. And a good friend of mine, one of my closest pals, also give up, and at that time, and just to support each other and to kind of just go on that journey together, because it's not an easy one. He suggested we started to run, and I did, and I didn't like it so much at the start, but thank God I kept up with it, and I trusted him, because he kept encouraging me to keep on running, and listen, as a consequence of my running journey, a lot of what we're going to be talking about today has happened, through running. I hook a lot onto that, so I'm so grateful that I found running.
So, okay, Mark, here on the Heromakers Podcast, we talk a lot about people overcoming obstacles, and we talk about, just being a human, right? Like none of us are perfect. We're all flawed. All that.
Yes.
So, and we talk about kind of transformational stories and whatnot. Okay. So you said something in there that I need to ask about, which is that you used to see their glass as half empty, and now you see it as half full. So can you talk to us a little bit about that, about what that transformation looked like, and just kind of your journey there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, the glass half full, as I described it, was, a little bit of everything really kind of contributed towards that way of thinking. Wasn't no one's fault. I'm not laying the blame anywhere. I'm at a place, and I learned quite quickly, once it was blatantly obvious, that I needed to change certain aspects of my life and my behaviour and all that kind of stuff, that I needed to take responsibility. So that was like the beginning of my new way of life, in inverted commas, really. So that was around about 2002, about 19 odd years ago, if my maths is correct. I found myself at 18 years old in rehab. Bit too much drink and other bits and pieces. So just kind of took me down a rabbit hole, really, of just darkness, and kind of didn't have much hope, and wasn't inspired. And normal. I say normal, but for me, just adequate, not much self-esteem, because I wasn't, really doing esteemable acts. So yeah, there was a period of time there growing up, being a teenager, kind of later on into my teenage years, that I was in trouble. I was in trouble, and but yeah, like I said, I'm very grateful for them experiences. Now I come out the other side. I'm now like 19 years sober, and all that I've learned is a byproduct of just getting support, getting guidance, kind of being of service, and trying to contribute towards life, giving more than I take, being honest and humble, and all them kind of things, buzzwords. But yeah, listen, it slips off the tongue. Like I said, I've had a lot of years of practicing and integrating certain things into my life, and positive habits, and asking for help, and getting vulnerable, and and then getting the courage, I suppose, and the willingness to just show up, and just to dive right in and see what life's got. And there's that famous quote, isn't there, or that kind of mini story around the arena, of just kind of jumping into the arena and knowing that you're going to be, some stones are going to be thrown and you're going to get dirty, but that's where it's at, because you can look back and say, well, at least you tried your best to contribute, etc. Then like that lifts your spirit. So that's hopefully that's a bit of a dive into my background.
So Mark, so you kind of said this funny thing about getting a nosebleed if you go too far away from where you grew up. So I'm wondering if part of your dedication and your passion for the community was a result of just the support that you got in your earlier years, around that 18, kind of transitioning out of that, and you realizing the importance of community and relationships. Was that part of where like your passion to build community came from?
Oh, listen, absolutely plays a part. I mean, there's no one singular thing. I think as life kind of happens and you experience different things, and different situations happen, and how you deal with them and reflect on them and come out of them, etc., kind of just goes into your makeup, of maybe how you approach the next situation or the next conversation. And yeah, the thing around home, absolutely, it was relatable, it was tangible, it was where I lived, it was kind of, it wasn't virtual, i.e., gone were the days when I felt, oh, I'll be happy if I move here, or things will be okay if I was over there. So there was that kind of that element to it, I suppose, in the early days of just feeling, what's the word? There's a word, isn't it? Feeling anchored somewhere. That's the word. I've never really used that terminology before. So yeah, I feel anchored to where I live. And then I became a father, early 20s, and you see life through a new lens, and all of a sudden, just kind of creatively, I suppose, and as I was maturing, I was involved in different conversations, different spaces, especially around being a dad, and you were looking at how the next generation were being led or guided, through schools, and what they were watching, etc. And then yeah, just kind of, I just felt compelled, for want of a better word, to show up and take part for them more than anything, and there was a lot of and there is generally not too much, I suppose, I don't want to exaggerate, but you do, depends on where your attention is and kind of what you listen to, and how you consume certain information. There's quite a bit of complaining that goes on, so I was always kind of on the road of, okay, let's not complain, what can we do, like what can I do, what am I in control of, and just let that be my guide, as opposed to falling into that pit of, yeah, just kind of that hopeless, if only they did this, or she did that, or he did that, then always kind of laying the blame somewhere. So yeah, that mindset or that kind of way of thinking was absolutely as a byproduct of all what you've shared back, and becoming a dad, becoming a husband, and just maturing, I suppose.
Yeah. I like the idea of, there's the phrase bloom where you're planted. I don't know if you've heard that before, but like what you're speaking of is kind of this sense of like home, and just committing yourself to a place and to people. And I like, even as you're saying that, it's interesting, Mark, because I like, it almost feels like a foreign concept for people today, with so many things being virtual now, and our communities being online now. And talk to us just quickly, before we get into your town and other things. Talk to us quickly about the importance of like physical proximity to other people, and to like that physical community, and kind of what that does to us as people, and like just that sense of like community and home.
Yeah, I'm loving these questions. Loving them. No, it's really kind of, yeah, just make me feel nice. It's just nice to have this kind of conversation. I mean, I have some amazing conversations, so I'm not kind of singly just separating this one from all the others. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying this. Yeah, lots of things spring to mind, really, but two or three maybe things to kind of tap into is, I think I've already mentioned words like, being relatable and tangible. You see like things that are there and that you can see and you can touch and you can feel, especially with this transition that's been going on, not just through the last year or so with the pandemic, but that virtual world that is blatantly obvious. We are fast approaching. This last year has probably accelerated it by a few years, but it's on the horizon. With what people are talking about, with all the things that people are coming up with mad stuff, which is great. But short term, it can create a sense of anxiety, or kind of, okay, what does that look like? And things are not how they used to be, but they never were. Because we're always evolving and things of that nature. But I suppose, to go back to my early days of, figuring certain things out about my own self, and, that self-awareness, trying to build on that, was just that kind of identification that you have with others, and finding these pockets of communities that you can identify with. For me, as I was kind of coming out of my darkness, if you want to call it that, AA and communities like that have kind of been there and done it, and Alcoholics Anonymous I'm talking about, that really just showed me that I wasn't alone, and there was other people out there, as you mentioned, all human beings. No one's perfect, and we'll go in our various ways or whatever, but as long as you kind of find your place, which is hopefully a happy place, and a place which is there to uplift people and encourage people and not bring you down. They're the kind of communities that I want to be a part of. And then that just blossomed into my working community, and then these other little communities now that I'm looking to kind of put out there into the world and being the founder of, whatever way you want to describe it, because I absolutely believe in balance, and and yes, online is here to stay, and you need to embrace it. I'm not against it. It's short term, or the shortcomings of that, for people to navigate their way through in regards to social media and how we communicate in that way. It's blatantly obvious that a lot of work needs to be done there, but it does obviously bring a lot of value also. But yeah, that offline connection is critical, and I just think as human beings, and it's just there. It's just how we're built, and I don't think anyone can kind of argue against that. Yes, it might be a bit different, and with how we are from maybe a well-being or mental health point of view, if that's the right way of putting it. It does bring its own anxieties. A lot of people don't like certain confrontations, and it doesn't have to be obviously a negative confrontation. Just an everyday conversation for some can bring lots of thoughts and feelings that they're not comfortable with. So you need to acknowledge that, human connection, and the pressure that brings. If you were to put on events, or if you were to put yourself out there into that arena, as I said, then it does bring a whole wealth of like, what are we doing? So and I suppose that ultimately comes back to ourselves, and as we've kind of all alluded to, that kind of how can we manage our next steps? How can we support others, and how can we relate, and what tools have we got to make that process as straightforward as possible, because it definitely isn't straightforward. But
I think
possible, but it is possible.
Right. Yeah, you're so right, because I thank you for saying we're not alone. Because I really think during this pandemic, especially because we're all so virtual now, that it really feels we're disconnected physically, but we really need that. And I think that once we're actually able to emerge, and I think we're just going to go run around and hug each other. I think we need that physical touch, and to just really value where we're at, actually, the people that are in our lives. Because I think what you're doing and what you've done, I don't know if you planned this, but it's countercultural, because so many people just move at a flip of a switch, and or even they leave communities because there's conflict or something like that. So what you're doing and just staying for such a long time is so beautiful and quite rare, but just want to say thank you for doing that.
No worries. And but you've opened up a bit of a can of worms there, because it is such a contradiction, some of what we're talking about. It's like taps into what I've brought up already about kind of where your attention is and what you're influenced by, or kind of what you relate to. But it's kind of go fast, but nothing happens overnight, and it's just like be patient, but we need it now. And it's just like you said, stay where you are, but that's so uncomfortable. I need to move because it's just better over there. And it's like, no, it's just like not necessarily. Like, we understand that all this. Oh yeah, and it's but it's big stuff, and until there's a willingness there to kind of be open to that, I suppose, and to kind of find your own way with where you sit within that. That's where the beauty is. But to get to that point is tough. So yeah, it's like I said, it's a big conversation.
Thanks. I actually had a question about. You said you're a parent, which is amazing, to teenagers. And my guess is what you called your darkness was probably about the same age, as
I was definitely in it then. Yeah. I mean,
I'm curious.
Yeah.
What kind of father are you?
Oh, well, you'd have to ask them. But what kind of father do I want to be? as well. I mean, want to be, I am one, like I just mentioned. So as with, I don't really separate it from that human being lens that you brought up at the beginning, Laurie. Like, I'm a human being, so yes, I've got certain titles, if you want to call it that. It sounds like I'm belittling the father, like it's a title, like it's a job. It's not. It's part of me, And a wise man said to me, and I call him a wise man because it's just one of them scenarios which maybe we've all had. But when on certain occasions someone says something, it just stays with you for the rest of your life, and just kind of in that moment, it's exactly what you needed to hear, and it's just absolutely just in that moment just changed a lot of my point of view. And it's before my first daughter was born, Sienna, so we're talking 2004, 2005. And, I was talking about, what I was experiencing and some of my fears maybe, and some of my anxieties about it, and my excitement and all that kind of stuff as well, because I was, really looking forward to it. And he was like, listen, Mark, it's not about being the kind of dad and giving them what you didn't have. It's about giving them what you've got. And I was like, wow. I was like, yeah. So, because as a bit of a headline, your mind probably gravitates towards, well, I can take them there because I never got took there, or I can give them that because I never had it, which is great. And I'm not belittling that way of thinking, because, for some, if not, I'll get it, like I said, but yeah, it's not about giving them what you didn't have. It's about giving them what you've got. And as soon as you said that, I thought, wow, that's it. Bang. And yeah, so I try to stay close to that as much as I can. And just got a realistic approach. I know that they've got to find their own way, and then it's up to, I'll bring that up again, I brought it up a lot, then it's up to me to navigate my way through what kind of fatherhood throws at me, because it feels like a war zone out there at times, and it's not to exaggerate it, because there are genuine war zones out there, but they, to a certain degree, they fight their own little wars, in the playgrounds, and how people can be and how they talk to each other and act towards each other is devastating, So yeah, listen, like I said, every day brings something new. My realistic approach suggests that I know that they're not perfect, I'm not perfect. I've got a lot going on, attraction rather than promotion. I like to think that actions speak louder than words. So, what they see, with maybe what I get up to or choose to do on a daily basis, is going in somewhere subtly in between their ears, and it plays out as they mature and grow older. But listen, they're great. They're healthy. They've adapted this last year in particular really, really well. I'm so proud of them. They've got their own little hobbies, and they've got their own little, habits, shall we say? And so yeah, they're great. So hopefully, I'm decent, but we can always maybe look back at times and think, oh, could have done that a bit better. But on the whole, Mark, I'm all right.
Yeah, as a former teenage girl, I could say it's hard. It's hard. The whole season, middle school into high school, it's just, it's just a hard one. So yeah. I love what you say about, you bring what you are and what you have. And I think that requires a little bit of self-reflection too, to know okay, well, who am I as a parent, and what are my strengths and gifts? And so that's good. But let's hop to your town, because we want to hear about that as well. So tell us about this initiative that you launched several years ago.
Yeah, great. It's my little baby, and it was the beginning of, I'll say everything. Again, that's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but it felt like it was the beginning of a new version of me, on reflection. And what I mean by that is, it's like prior to your town, I was happy, like I said, I was knee deep in being a dad and a husband, and I was in a job which I wasn't unhappy with, but I always knew I wasn't born to do it, and it brought a level of financial success, I suppose you could call it, which meant that, it kept me there, and, having to be responsible and paying my way and all that kind of jazz. So, yeah, obviously my reality wasn't that, I went into university, I went to rehab, so there was a difference, but it's my own type of university, I suppose. So, yeah, I don't know ways to say it, like the luxury of being able to go out, make mistakes, and follow my curiosity and my kind of creative ideas, etc. Because, I settled down early. So, yeah, fast forward a few years, the girls are kind of growing up to be like 7, 8, 9s or whatever. And I just made a decision to leave the job that I was in and start up on my own with the idea of maybe every couple of quarters there might be a bit of money in the bank that I can invest in myself, really, in my own ideas. I made that decision. I started up within literally a couple of weeks. I was at this meeting. They were talking about town centre vibrancy, community development, things of that nature. And I had this idea called Give Your Town a Run Around. And I approached them afterwards and I said, listen, I didn't come here today for this, but I'm inspired to come up to you now and after what's been shared today, I've got an idea. I think it could bring value to the conversation. If you're up for it, I'm up for it. Let's talk and I'll see if I can make it happen. So that was an event called Give Your Town a Run Around, as I mentioned, and it's centered around my hometown. I run an event once a year that we were, that's the intention. And it's all about supporting and showcasing local projects, initiatives, causes, getting people together offline, in town to really showcase kind of the positivity that can be created by community coming together and, just really harnessing, what can be achieved by everyone working together and it's centered around a run. So that was 2014. We had our first event September 2014. Really successful, caught a lot of people's attention. And I knew now that I was kind of very passionate about staying involved in these conversations. But in order to do that, I might need to be a bit more generic in the title, because Give Your Town a Run Around is, pretty self-explanatory. So let's call it Your Town. And that gave us scope to crack on and do other things under that umbrella, which we did. And and now we see multiple towns. We do stuff in primary schools. We've got download resources, lesson plans online over in the UK. We've got multiple towns doing running groups, walking groups. That event that I just spoke about, we've scaled that down and created a model which lends itself more easily to more places, and other towns are now taking that on board. And it's just been a real journey. I've learned lots. It was my university where I was seeing what I was capable of and, what could be achieved. And mate, you can probably tell by the way I've just spat all that out. Like it's but contradictory to all that. It took me a while to accept I was an entrepreneur. I'm not a fan of that word, but, again, I'm not going to play with words. And what I mean by that is, I've had to sacrifice an awful lot to make that happen. And, I've dug very deep and I've had some very bad days, where, it's community orientated. It's a community interest company, there's no commerciality to it. So to get investment and things like that was like a big no. For whatever reason, there's no judgment attached to that. But so, just to create it and just to kind of, give it what it deserved has meant I've just made a choice to do what you need to do to stick around long enough, because life is harsh. You can have some amazing ideas, you can be for community, you can have all the good intent in the world, but if your mortgage guy rings you at the end of the month and says, why don't you pay your mortgage, mate? And I say, well, I'm doing this amazing thing called Your Town. He's like, okay, that's lovely and great, it's amazing, well done, but you need to pay your mortgage, mate. So it's been a few years of just, you probably can identify, just stories to tell, but we're resilient and we've come out the other side, and that's led into things like Run Great Pool and all that. So I'm really pleased for what it's brought me and in my life.
So it feels to me like you were supporting this whole concept of local businesses, like you were supporting that concept even before it became like a big concept, because now you hear it all over, right? I mean, it's like, especially during the pandemic, where it's like support local and all of that. And I think that's another way just that your sense of community manifests itself, is that you starting this. Did you have any, when you started, did you have any pushback from the community, or was everybody just really on board and excited about that kind of like coming together event?
No, listen, we had it all. It's always at the tip of my tongue with this conversation, but I'll go back to that arena. You need to put yourself out there. You need to be courageous. And yes, what we were, the platform that we were building, and what we were looking to take part in was sensitive, and very delicate, because you had different people with their own experiences. You know, if we're talking about the high street in particular, or the town centre, whatever, you had people that had been there 15, 20 years plus that, you know, experienced it how it used to be, in inverted commas, which was very different to now. And were they adapting, you know, and if not, why not? Is it somebody else's fault? You know, so we get that conversation again. And for some of them, it wasn't their fault. It was just different times, and, you know, people were experiencing things in different ways. And then you had this big kind of the inactivity and obesity, and this conversation coming into play, which is mainly around young people and you know, the next generation as they enter primary school years. And by the time they leave primary school and go into secondary school years, so like 10, 11, 12, their obesity had gone up like it's crazy amounts. So all of a sudden we were there and we're like, okay, this isn't just one singular conversation necessarily. This is big. You know, we just want to take part, play our part. We're not the solution, but we're definitely going to put, you know, one foot in front of the other and contribute. And as a consequence of that, yeah, if there is judgment, if there is pushback, as you call it, which you're going to have. But I was just very kind of eager to kind of see it from other people's point of view as well. So we actually, you know, and I pushed hard for this at my own cost, really, which I've never really brought up, to be fair, so I don't know why I'm bringing it up now, but to actually get a presence on my local high street. So I committed to a 3-year lease, got a bit of support from the council because, you know, who we were and what we were looking to do within that space, just to see it through the eyes of somebody that had to pay rent, had to pay rates, you know, because it's right, me, little old Marky, that no one really heard about before, coming in and, you know, looking to do X, Y, and Z, but doing it, you know, I wasn't full of it. I was actually, you know, demonstrating and being proactive and actually showing up and doing these things. But yeah, I was just really interested to see, okay, let me have that pressure, you know, for whatever reason, you know. And we did. We were in there for 3 years. It was successful. You know, we were a bit of an incubation space. We supported new starts and local enterprises, you know, centered around fitness and well-being and food and vegan cafe. We were in there for a period of time, and yeah, just to kind of give them an opportunity. We at the same time could experience what we needed to experience. We could be busy in the background building what we were building. And then, like I said, we had our running communities that were blossoming, and we had your town walkers that would meet every week. So we're having amazing stories being told and shared, and connections, and we were seeing clear outcomes of how, you know, how important this was becoming for certain individuals that is, you know, leaning into us for a bit of support, and yeah, just showcasing that it could be achieved, but not individually, like collectively, you know, and just get everyone. And I believe you kind of half brought it up, but this year is definitely, you know, fast forward a few years, this year is definitely maybe heightened that kind of acceleration of actually, yes, like if we were to work together, because we're all on the same page now, we're all not alone in this, how can we make the best of a bad situation, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's so much I have to say about that, because I hear humility in there. I hear, you know, you had this vision. It's like you even said it felt like it was the beginning of a new version of myself. And so like you had this vision and you just kind of went for it. And I think a lot of times, Mark, people have ideas or they see things around them that are wrong, or, you know, we kind of will critique or whatever, but we're not the ones to step up to that. And sometimes maybe we are being called to step up into like a certain situation like you were, and just to kind of have the courage to say, okay, let's try this. Let's see how the community responds. Let's listen well. And I think that's a challenge for all of us, is just to ask, okay, do I want to sit on the sidelines and grumble, or just throw out my ideas? Or do I actually want to be part of the solution moving forward? And I think hopefully we will all say the latter part. But let's jump to Run Grateful and tell us about what it is, and just kind of what you're doing around the world now with it.
Yeah, just so chuffed with where we're at, what we're doing, who's gravitating towards it, who's taking part. So around about a year ago, well, in May actually, so a couple of months short, but you know, during just coming out of the initial lockdown here in the UK, where, you know, we could you know, go outdoors for a bit longer and things like that, because, you know, we had a period of time when you couldn't necessarily, and I took on this challenge. Well, I was, you know, during my running career, distances and things like that have never really been something that I was too interested in. Like marathons and PBs is not really my relationship with running. Isn't that? So, but anyway, for this last 18 months or so, after having a couple of conversations with a couple of people, the ultra running was becoming more and more attractive to me. Just a friend of mine, Danny, he's actually one of our captains for Your Town Runners in another town. He's a great guy. And and it's just the way he was describing it to me. He was just like, time on your feet, time outdoors. And I was like, okay. So anyway, I signed up for my first ultra marathon, in 2020 with Danny, actually. I was looking forward to it, nervous. And then what happened. So, and then I was talking to Danny again. I was like, it's a bit of a shame, but there's this David Goggins challenge that I've heard about, 4 miles every 4 hours, 48 hours. And I was like, that sounds like a bit of me. I love that type of running, that challenge, and what the mindset needed to kind of entertain stuff like that. But I was like, it's a bit far beyond me. And then Danny just said, have you heard about this guy from Australia called Bo Miles? He's like a YouTuber. He's a great guy. He's a funny guy. He does these wacky videos at times. And he's ran a mile on the hour every hour for 24 hours. And in between the hours, he completes tasks around the house that have kind of been on his list of things to do for a while. So I was like, okay, that's cool. I said, do you want to do it? He said, oh, I'll do it. I said, okay, what are you doing next week? And he said, okay, we'll do it. So, but my spin on that was that I didn't complete tasks. Every hour I dedicated to someone or something I was grateful for. And I jumped to my social media in between every run. And we're just sharing my experiences with these people that had kind of had a positive influence on my life, or these experiences that I remember fondly, etc. And people were really enjoying, following that 24-hour journey with me. I was obviously knee deep in gratitude for the day, which is, lovely, on top of the challenge, which was, really great. And I was really enjoying that as well. And then, it just set off something inside, in between my ears. And I was like, okay, listen, I loved it. Let's see if we can open up this opportunity for others. What does that look like? What can we call it? 24-hour running isn't for everybody. So how can we make it more inclusive? And then I was just like, okay, Run Grateful. Let's open it up to a grateful mile. And let's build a website, for nothing, because I didn't have much, and let's get going, similar to the Your Town mentality. And 9-10 months on, it's a global thing, and we do lots now under the Run Grateful umbrella, and all may it continue. Mate, I can't wait. I'm ready. I want to go and do more.
I'm totally challenged because I am not a distance runner.
Yeah,
I am a sprinter.
Okay.
So I hear you're doing this next week, so I want you to tell us more about that. So if I'm like, oh no, what am I getting myself into? But I just want to say first, first of all, I just wanted to say, like, I really appreciate that you're doing it for something, because I think a lot of people do it because of health or because it's, but you're putting a different spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a different purpose, which actually it's more inspiring to me.
It's been a game changer for me. I mean, connecting gratitude and movement, running in this instance, isn't new news for me. I've been doing it for a while. So, I mean, it isn't obvious for everybody. Their relationship with running or movement is different. Some do chase PBs or kind of got goals, which are amazing, towards, this event or that event. Or like you said, some do it to lose weight. Some people just do it for the social and, just whatever reason is great. But, that connection with gratitude, I just felt like was an ideal opportunity for people to, if they're spending that time and they're committing to that time and investing their time in however long they're going out running for, whether it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, then just use some of that time, to focus on where where you are, kind of what you're grateful for, and just let that just be a time in your life where you can always have, and because I don't know about you, I mean, I've always ran for my well-being personally, but it's still quite easy to go out for a run and you get back and you wonder where you went, and because you're still caught up in the mind. So, before I went out, just to focus and just to take a couple of moments to reflect and think about that one thing, and let that be my reason for being, for going out. yeah, like I said, it worked for me. And so to do it with that challenge and to connect the two there, and now to open it up and invite other people along to just experience it. It's not for everybody. Gratitude for some doesn't come naturally, and some don't practice it, or some have heard about it, but they don't quite know what it means for them. So under the Run Grateful umbrella, absolutely, we want to just kind of share what it can be and how it can kind of influence you in positive ways, and because it doesn't cost anything. It does and it doesn't. It does because of the experiences that you've had might lead you, with your own life story. So it does come at a cost, but ultimately, there's always something to be grateful for, no matter what your circumstance, situation, and hopefully that one thing can be the spark for more, and can kind of lead you in a certain path if you find that you're on a bit of a wonky path.
Well, gratitude is a fantastic habit to cultivate. Because if you're not good at it, I don't know if anybody's amazing at it, but I think it's something we can always be better at. So then you said it's now like it's taken off on a global scale. Like, what is it particularly? Like, what has the response been?
Just, it comes in waves from, just encouraging and reassuring, that people want to do it, and they feel like they feel like there's a need there, and, a real passion for people to explore what gratitude is, and kind of how they can introduce it into life, or introduce this into their running, and just kind of be curious about, their relationship with running. And that sounds a little bit different, let's give that a go. So that's been great, and to kind of hear and see the stories of how people, and even like the as I call them, maybe the more able runners, the people that go out there and chase PBs, or, at that time of their life, that's what's important to them, even to make one of their miles a grateful one, and just to shift their attention. And I just think, it's been amazing to kind of see. And then, just a tangible part of it where people are connecting literally around the world, where they tag us in, they share what they're grateful for, and it's just really uplifting to see that there's people from around the world on any given weekend, going out there and taking photos if in within that moment that they're feeling grateful, and sharing it with us. It's just a nice thing to do. It's a nice thing to see. It's a nice thing to hear. No matter kind of what state of mind you're in, you can never really belittle that stuff. So that's been great, and just the uptake, just with the amount of people and countries getting involved and signing up, and we've got lots of things planned in the future as well, just to kind of really grow what we're doing, and get more and more people involved, and let them just carry on.
Great mind shift. Like, it's an attitude shift. You actually have to focus, or like encourages you to focus on what is actually good in your life. But okay, so you have an event next week, right? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so it felt like at the time, like I say obvious, but it just felt like a realistic thing to put on, virtually, and we've spoken about it already, about getting that balance. We have done some offline activity, and we intend to do a lot more, but short term, just to kind of just to get the word out there, and to kind of get people on the Run Grateful train, for want of a better word. We just felt like these themed weekends, if we could have these a few times a year, so there's a consistency with it, we could build some momentum around it, we can connect the world through gratitude. Let's go out on over a course of a couple of days, whether you want to walk or run a mile, or just do whatever you're going to do regardless, but just include us within the miles. We can just look to build a community, and it doesn't matter where you are, what you've got. Like I mentioned, you can get involved. It's free to sign up, and like I said, over 60 countries have got involved so far with our last one, which was November time, I think, just before Christmas. And then we've done a streak in December with inviting people to walk or run a mile a day, a grateful mile a day, which was incredible again. We just thought we'd do one tail end of February, just to keep that vibe alive, and before we go into the spring, and maybe launch and share about some of the other exciting things we've got going on.
So I like this, Mark, because it's it's carving out time to be in a positive mindset. And, if you need ideas for this initiative, I'm happy to give them to you, because now I'm thinking of like,
You're in, are you? You're locked in.
I'm totally in.
Yeah,
And I even think, well, okay, so people are grateful. They're thinking about a person that they're grateful for. And then, okay, fine. Now go write that personal letter. Like there's all these after things that could go on.
Absolutely.
Right? But,
yeah.
Mark, one of my friends, 2 years ago, she started running a marathon. She trained for a marathon, and then she ran one last year. And then this year she's doing a full Ironman. Okay. If you guys don't know how long an Ironman is, it's just really long. And go look it up, because it's just really long.
That's crazy stuff.
And
I know loads.
She's doing it, Mark. She's doing it for World Vision. And so she's doing it for something external from herself. Like she's like, if I was going to do it, I would never do a full Ironman. But she just felt really prompted to do this. And so she's raising, I think it's $10,000 for wells in Africa, to create wells in Africa. And she is just like all in. Like she started a blog. It's just amazing. And like the power, I think, of like having something external to us, like we cannot underestimate that. And I think this is why your initiative is so amazing. And because it's not just runners, right? I mean, people could go out and walk. It's not like you have to go out
100%.
and run. Just go out there and be active and use that time to be grateful. And then, oh yeah, by the way, tell somebody that you're actually grateful for them. Like don't hold it inside. But can you just, I mean, I'm just interested in, as we kind of wrap up, in the whole, how does gratitude change us? Like, so somebody's involved in one of your events for 24 hours, or they did the streak, right? One day, was it a month, 1 mile for a month? Is that what it was?
So in December, we're actually, so there's a couple of things I might just leave you with. I won't go too much, but there's a couple of things we've got going on. But a couple of things we've done already is that streak in December, just walk or run a grateful mile a day.
Yeah. But so just leave us with, okay, how is this going to change us as a result as well, by taking this deliberate time to be active and be grateful at the same time?
Okay, so the short answer to that is, well, there's two things that come to mind. And again, I can only really draw on my experience. Everyone's got their own, outcomes potentially, but there's not many guarantees in life. I found that out along the way. But two things that spring to mind, with all that that I just mentioned, entwined in this answer is, like, what's the alternative? So I always look at that. What's the alternative? Why wouldn't I do this? So if someone's inviting me, even if I don't run, as you mentioned, or even if I'm not really, a lover of walking, all I ever use my legs for is to get made to be, because I need to be somewhere. I need to get that thing, as you mentioned. Like this. So if someone's inviting me to maybe not do that in that way, just for 1 mile, which is what, 20 minutes out of your life, if it's, pretty decent pace. So that's why I always say to myself, why wouldn't I do it? And if not, why not? Because there are some that say, no, thank you, mate, that's not for me. But, I'll just crack on and do what I normally do, which is fine. So like I said, all this is an invitation. So that's the first thing, because the other side of that answer is, like, why not? Let's go and give it a go. I guarantee you will not feel any worse. So, and that's probably the answer to your question. You will not feel any worse by not doing this, by going out and walk, because you've got to remember as well, like, we're being pretty generic here, not a lot of people have got the privilege of being able to go for a walk. And I said this to myself the other day. I'm knee deep in this running challenge myself during the month of February, and it's a tough one. I committed to it. I'm not really told many people about it, because some things you don't have to tell everyone about, but before I went out, I had to dig a little bit deep, because it's the last thing I wanted to do, really, if I'm honest. That's what my mind told me anyway. And I just had a little pep talk to myself and said, you know what, Mark, you've got 2 legs. You are able to go out now and go for this run. So just go and do it. so I did, because like I said, we're talking like, it's not everyone's reality. So with that in mind, like, what's the alternative? Why wouldn't you do it? And let, whatever the answer is, it's up to you, not us. And you won't feel any worse, and it will. Like I said, even if you need to dig deep, as mentioned, and you don't really want to go out, and you're having, not a great time, and things are going against you, and circumstances are that, you're your glass isn't necessarily half full. Sometimes it's justified. Life is harsh, as we mentioned, and but like I said, there's always that one thing to focus on, always, and just let that be that moment in time, which you deserve, and let that hopefully be a catalyst for other moments like that, and let that be your building block, because it can be, just like the other way of thinking is a reality as well. That's where you switch into what's the alternative. If I can think like this, I can equally feel like this. It might take a bit of willingness and a bit of work, but there is another way, and gratitude is a vehicle for that, absolutely, and movement.
Good. So grateful for you, Mark. I'm grateful for you. Maybe
Thank you.
I'll go run a mile and I'll think of how grateful I was for this conversation now. But
thank you.
And I think, Ann, we need to encourage all of our listeners to kind of challenge themselves and ask themselves if they can take part in this over the next month or two. But Mark, where can we find you online?
So it's rungrateful.com.
Okay.
So it's kind of, it's
are
all
you
there.
on social media on Instagram?
Yeah, I think it's One Grateful Run on Instagram. Yeah, but again, all the links are on the website, and people have written about us, and we've got all the weekends, and so I'll leave you with something quite exciting, because no one knows this apart from me and Liz, and I'll tell one other person actually today. From Ocado, who we've been doing this amazing project with around the world, which has been amazing. But back to the point is in May, round about our birthday, so we're going to call it our birthday celebration. We're actually kicking off the world's first largest gratitude run on Saturday, the 22nd of May. So you heard it here first. We're just busy behind the scenes and putting that together, but it sounds good, the world's biggest gratitude run. So yeah, hopefully you guys. It sounds like you'll be involved. So you'll be there. So
I'll be there across the pond with you.
This non-runner is going to do it.
And I'm going to convince you to do some of this with me. And Mark, I fully plan on doing the 24-hour thing. So that's
we're still something out between us. We look to get something going with that. It's an amazing experience. So you'll love it.
Good. All right. Yeah. Well, I hope you guys appreciated this episode of the podcast, and I hope it inspires you to take some time to be grateful for what you have and the people around you, and then also just tell people that you're grateful for them. I think verbal affirmation does never land on deaf ears. It's always a good thing. So check out what Mark is doing at Run Grateful. We'll link to all of that in the show notes. And thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.